How we doing, everybody? And welcome into Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. Aaron is usually here. It's Friday. It's usually the weekend preview time. Well, Aaron is out today, late night at work. Wasn't able to make it on. That's okay. We got lots to get into today, though. We got the weekend preview coming up. Badgers not in action, but I want to talk a little Badgers today. Packers. Got to get into the Packers here. We're watching the Brewers and Diamondbacks right now. Lots to get into today here on the show. So thanks for joining me. If you're out there right now and you're joining the show tonight here, thanks for joining in. It's a Friday, a fantastic Friday here. And I mean, can't beat it. Can't beat it right now. Great time in Wisconsin sports outside of the Badgers, which I want to get into first today here. The Badgers, they got a bye. They're on a bye this week here, but there's a lot of question marks around Madison right now, around this team, and I want to get into that today. I want to get into the Badgers and kind of hear what you guys, if anybody out there wants to talk a little Badgers, would love to hear your comments in on that. But there's lots I want to get into on the Badgers today. And first and foremost is a lot of Badger fans are kind of upset. They're upset at the trajectory that this team is going. It doesn't seem like there's been the improvement that we've been hoping for, right? Luke Fickle comes in. We get rid of Paul Chryst. Luke Fickle comes in. It's supposed to be, everybody gets excited. It's going to be a change in the program. We're going to see this team just go to different heights than they had been to in a very long time. And so far, we haven't seen it yet. So a lot of Badger fans, with that in mind, have gotten upset. They're like, why have we not gotten to the point where we thought we were going to be this season? Was it a harder rebuild than what we thought? A lot of people say Paul Chryst screwed up the program, right? Did Paul Chryst screw up the program so bad that now we're sitting here and it seems like Luke Fickle can't even coach, right? It seems like Luke Fickle is doing a terrible job. I don't think Luke Fickle is doing a terrible job. I just honestly think the pieces aren't there yet, right? The pieces aren't there. I don't think he's found his quarterback, if I'm going to be honest with you. Last year, it was Mordecai. This season, it seemed like Tyler Van Dyke was finally starting to get a groove. That first drive against Alabama, and then he goes down, right? He goes down. Now Braden Locke's inserted back in. A lot of the problems, I believe, go back to the offense, right? Phil Longo, how he's drawing up this offense for this team. It doesn't make sense. I look at the stats. I look at some of the guys where when you're in an air raid offense like the Badgers are, you would expect these guys to be your big hitters. Bryson Green, right? Vinny Anthony. Those two guys were the guys going into this season here. I was like, yep, these are going to be the guys. These are going to be the guys. It hasn't turned out to be that yet. And does that come back to play call? Where are you putting that on? Because I really do believe for this team to succeed, right, they got to be able to extend the field, right? When Phil Longo comes in, he tells us how he wants to do all these. He wants to take deep shots. He wants to be this burner of a team who's still going to be balanced, right, but is going to have the ability that they want to go deep, right? They want to go deep. They haven't been able to find that yet. So Bryson Green's involvement inside the offense kind of concerns me because this is a guy where I feel like we're wasting him away. We're wasting his talent, his big talent. He's a big wide receiver. I believe he's 6'4". Is he 6'3"? 6'3", 213 pounds. A 6'3" wide receiver with good hands, can go up and get it. He's got some good speed to him, and we don't utilize him within this offense. I just don't get it. I really don't. So it hasn't been an impressive start. We aren't utilizing the weapons in the room. We hear Phil Longo come out in a presser, and he says, I'm just here to please Luke Fickle. You can read into that 14 different ways. What does that mean, right? What does that mean at the end of the day? You're here to please Luke Fickle. Are you saying to me Luke Fickle's telling you what to do? Are you saying to me that you're trying to do the simple things right? Because right now, nothing's going right. So, end of the day, I'm not blaming this on Luke Fickle. If you bring in, say Phil Longo doesn't cut it for you, right? End of this season, you say, Phil, we aren't just heading in the right direction right now. We gotta switch hands here. So you switch over, right? Maybe you bring in a different offensive coordinator. if it continues to struggle, okay, now we have to dig deeper. Now we have to find something else that we can do because right now this Badger team is not impressive, right? It's not impressive. You could almost say it is going backwards, but was it a harder rebuild? I honestly think, and this is just my take on it, is with the Badgers last season wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. This season, you're 2-1. You're heading to play USC next week. You're hoping that you can hang with a team like USC. Then the rest of your schedule, you're just beating the teams that you should beat, hanging with those other teams, and you just kind of end of the day just try to improve week after week. That's about all there is to it. That's about all there is to it. I watch this team and I watch the struggle. It's hard to you can nitpick all day long, but it just seems like nothing's right. It just seems like nothing's right now. So there's a lot of improvement that has to happen, right? I talked about it the other day on the show here. What has to happen in this bye week? First off, Braden Locke, you got to get him some confidence, right? We watched him against Alabama. That's a tough game to come into. It seemed like he was pissing his pants the whole time. Like it wasn't great. So Braden Locke needs to get some confidence instilled into him over this next week and into this next week here for USC. The offense, Phil Longo, he's got to figure something out. What are you going to do, right? What are you going to do offensively that is going to change? Because right now, you're a run-heavy offense. You haven't changed from what Paul Chryst was doing in Madison. So what are you going to do in that aspect? And then I look at the defense and I say, man, oh man, you guys got to figure out how to put pressure on a quarterback because right now there is zero pressure up front. Zero pressure up front. I knew when Thompson Jr. got injured, it was going to be a little bit tougher on the Badger. It was going to be a little bit tougher, but I really thought, they would find a way. All these transfers coming in, some promising transfers coming in the linebacker room. I was like, you know what? They're going to find a way on the defensive side of the ball. They have some decent corners, right? Hallman's back, Woller's back. They got decent playmakers back there in the secondary. They just needed to, excuse me there. They just needed to find some help up front. And they couldn't find it. They have not found that help up front that, it's been a struggle. This team has been a struggle to watch since week one. So there's a lot that has to happen in this bye week here for the Badgers to improve before USC. We're going to see USC face off against Michigan, and that is going to tell you a lot about this USC team. That's going to tell you a lot about Michigan after that one, and even see if they're still – I don't think Michigan's a contender, but see if they have any sort of life. They're Michigan. They don't have a quarterback right now, but there's lots that we can see out of that game there. The Badgers will be watching that one closely to see what happens there. And, man, as a Badger fan, I am sitting here and I am just hoping that at some point we see glimpses of what could be over the upcoming years. I just hope we see glimpses. Right now, I'm not seeing glimpses. Right now, I'm seeing bad football. Honestly, just bad football. And it doesn't seem promising. It doesn't seem like we're heading in the direction that I thought we were going to be, that I was hoping for. I wasn't the biggest fan of the Luke Fickle hire. I honestly didn't think that when the Badgers brought in Fickle that it was going to immediately just change them into this big-time contender. But I was hopeful, right? You have this bigger name college coach. He's been to the college football playoff when it wasn't expanded yet, right? He's been to the college football playoff. He's done some things, right? He was at Cincinnati. He took them to the college football playoff. They got routed, but it's a Cincinnati school. You watch them, you watch Fickle do things like that at an opposing university, and he comes to Madison, and you're sitting there and you're thinking to yourself, okay, maybe he can do that here, right? Maybe he can do that here. We haven't seen it yet. So we're a wait and see, right? We're a wait and see. We're a hope. Right now I'm sitting there and I'm thinking it's going to be a year, right? Year 3 for me, the Luke Fickle era, I think we have to chalk it up to moments, right? Year 1 was, right? You're just taking over the team. Year 2, you want to see improvement. That's what I mean when I'm saying that after this bye week here, you got to see improvement of this Badger. You got to see improvement week after week, play calling, everything like that. Year 3 is going to be the one where I sit there and I judge. And I get to the point where I believe in this guy or I don't believe in this guy. Because how long do we have to wait, right? How long do we have to sit there and wait and say to ourselves, well, maybe this year we find something, right? I can't wait until year 5. I can't wait until year 6. I can't give this guy a contract extension and just pray for the next year, right? Right now, that seems what we're doing. We're just sitting here and we're saying to ourselves, maybe next year, right? Maybe next year we find it. Maybe the year after that we find it. I don't want you. We're going to be stuck in this little burner forever, right? I could have, if we would have stuck with Paul Chryst, just hypothetical world, we stuck with Paul Chryst, right? Paul Chryst blew out the MAC teams. He blew out the FCS schools that came to Camp Randall or wherever, right? He blew them out. He beat the teams he was supposed to beat. And then when he got to the big game, usually against like a Ohio State or whoever it was, we got routed, right? But what's the difference, right? End of the day, what's the difference between the Paul Chryst regime and what we see now? Honestly, as of now, I haven't seen the change that points me in this direction where I say Luke Fickle is doing that much better of a job than what we saw between Paul Chryst and Jim Leonard. That right now you can't say it. So I'm giving the benefit of the doubt. I'm saying to myself, okay, it's year 2. We're at the beginning of year 2. We're not going to freak out. We're going to watch this thing play out, right? This season play out. This is your improvement year where you want to see this team slowly start to put things together. And then year 3 rolls around. That's when you start saying to yourself, this is the guy I see leading the Badgers to potentially getting back up there in the top of the Big Ten, or this is the guy that I don't think can do it, right? He's got to be able to prove something to me in year 3. He does. Year 2, even at the end of it, I want to see this Badger team finish on a good note, right? Finish on a good note. But that year 3, that's a big one for me. That's a big one for me because you see the Big Ten expand, right? We got Oregon now. We got Washington, USC, UCLA. We have all those teams to deal with now. The Big Ten got better, but did the Badgers get better with it? That's what I think the biggest thing when I think of the Badgers, when I think of this team, I think of, did we get better with the times? And right now, I can't say that we really got that much better. Yes, you could say Paul Chryst didn't have the greatest recruiting classes before he left, right? You could say Paul Chryst wasn't doing his best. Paul Chryst this, Paul Chryst that. The offense was never going to do anything this and that and everything in between. I get those. I understand those. But what has Luke Fickle done so far to prove to me that he is the guy? He is that guy who is going to bring Badger football back to the top. I don't know what he has done. I don't know what he has done so far. Recruiting, you got to give him a minute, right? You got the transfer portal now. You got NIL money. All those things are going to be things that kill the Badgers when it comes to recruiting, right? So now you have to look at a guy. If the Badgers cannot recruit with Alabama and all them teams simply because now you got NIL, even these other teams out there, right? You got to deal with NIL. You got to deal with all this money now. So if the Badgers cannot compete in that game, okay, how are you going to compete at the end of the day? You're going to have to build teams, right? Somehow, some way, without losing guys, you're going to have to build teams like we did in the past, right? Right, like Barry Alvarez did, right? You're going to have to be able to build these teams from the inside out. Can Luke Fickle do that in this changing college football world? We're going to find out, right? But that's what I mean with this season here. We have to see the improvement, not just in the players, but also in the coaching staff with Phil Longo calling plays, because some of his play calls absolutely make zero sense to me. It seems like we're running the football all the time, but against Alabama on a 4th and 1, it felt like 4th and inches. We decided to run a shotgun handoff. I don't know the statistics offhand of how often that works, but to me, it probably pretty slim to none, right? You had a better chance if we would have just thrown out the old tush push, right? We should have just did the tush push against Alabama. We probably would have fared better than what we ended up with. There's so many different areas where the Badgers need to improve, but I think it does start in the coaching room, and I think it works its way down to the players. Because right now, I mean, you look at last season there, Hunter Wohler was ticked off at the end of the season with how the Badgers were playing. I don't think they're playing any better this season. I don't think the back end of the defense has actually played that bad yet. I don't think they've played that bad. They got torched, right? But does that come with scheming on the defense? Is that Tressel then? You got to look at Tressel there. How do guys get deeper than our safeties against Alabama, who, when they do make plays, when they score, they like to go long, right? They like the big plays. You look at all those receptions in that game against Alabama. The big ones were there was, 3 plays for over 50 yards, or I believe 3 plays for over 50 yards there. And, they all resulted in touchdowns. You can't have that, especially against a team like Alabama. So I'm watching this Badger team closely over the coming weeks to see if I can see the improvement, starting with the coaching staff and then working to the players. That's what I'm watching for in this season. I'm not saying this season is a wash. I'm not saying it's completely over with. I'm optimistic, right? I don't sound optimistic, but I am praying for the best. I am hoping that this Badger team will find a way to rattle off some wins, end up in a decent enough bowl game, and continue that streak of winning seasons. I'm hoping, right? But end of the day, I'm watching this team, and I'm seeing this Big Ten schedule, and I'm seeing these Big Ten teams. Now games against Nebraska, watching them play Illinois right now, that is a great game. And teams like Penn State and USC, Purdue's not gonna be an easy game, right? I don't know what it is about Purdue, but they always scare me. And even a team like Iowa, Oregon, you have a tough slate of games. You have a tough slate of games coming up. I just want to see the improvement. I really do. End of the day, I just want to see the improvement out of this Badger team this season. I worry about it next season. Then what my ultimate take is on the Luke Fickle era in Madison. So that's kind of my take. I know there's a lot of fans out there, and if you're watching the live right now, if you have any thoughts on Luke Fickle, on this Badger team, if you have any thoughts at all throughout the show here, even random thoughts about Wisconsin sports, outside of Wisconsin sports, definitely jump into the comment section. Feel free to send them out there because I love to talk about it. I love to get your opinions and takes out here on the show. I'd love to share them on the show here. So, getting away from the Badgers because, bye week, not that much going on there. Hoping to see some better things coming up against USC. I want to talk about some of the big games coming up here in college football over this next weekend. Number one, my biggest games for me. So these are the biggest games that I have currently that I'm thinking of on the docket here. Number one, Tennessee, Oklahoma. That should be a fantastic matchup there between Tennessee and Oklahoma. Outside of, there is one more big game that is happening right now as we're recording, and that is Illinois and Nebraska. That's also a very good game. I believe it's at the half right now. It is 17-10 at the half, Nebraska. A crazy play to end it there by Nebraska to end the first half. Outside of that, Illinois played a good game. That is a good team. Illinois is a good team. A lot of people want to dislike Illinois. That's a good team they got rolling down there with Altmaier. Pretty good team. So watch out for Illinois, Big Ten fans out there. Just looking at, like I said, some of the games happening, Tennessee and Oklahoma. That's my biggest game of the day there. What I want to see in that one is Tennessee for real, right? Over the years, Tennessee has shown us glimpses where you think they're back and then they stink. And then you think they're back and then they stink. Right now, they're the number 6 team in the country. They're traveling to Oklahoma, to Norman, to take on Oklahoma there for the night kick. We will find out in that game pretty darn fast because Tennessee they are explosive so far. They are 3-0 on the season, but you look at their games, not impressive couple of games because not some great opponents there, right? Chattanooga and Kent State, but 69-3 in the Chattanooga game, 71-0 in the Kent State game, and then they beat NC State, who was number 10 at the time, or they were number 24 at the time. Sorry about that. 51-10. There's where I read my 10 there. 51-10 in a blowout game there, and looking at the stats for this team. Quarterback, Nico there, he has 698 yards on the season so far. He is lighting it up. And then you look at the wide receiver room for him there. They have 4 guys over 100 yards already on the season with longs of over 45 plus there for a couple of, holy crap. This Tennessee team's explosive. So you got to watch out for Tennessee. That should be a fantastic matchup to wrap up your night, unless if you're into watching those late games, which I am not, but unless you're into like the Pac-12 start times, because then you can wait until 10:59 to watch Northern Iowa take on Hawaii. That should be a great game there. I believe Hawaii is favored in that one. Yeah, they got the line. Hawaii's got the line in that one. So watch out for that game late at night there. Outside of that, I got a couple other ones. Utah and Oklahoma State. Number 12, Utah taking on number 14, Oklahoma State. Interesting fact. I did not know this until I heard it today, and then I had to look it up myself because I didn't believe it. The combined age of the two quarterbacks, Cam Rising and Alex Bowman, in that game there, their combined age is 49 years old. Now you're like, why does that matter, right? Caleb Williams and Anthony Richardson, both in the NFL, their combined age is 44 years old. So to put it in perspective, those two guys are 5 years older combined than two starting quarterbacks in the NFL. You could put together a different kind of list of starting quarterbacks in the NFL, but that is crazy to me, right? Cam Rising, Alex Bowman, some experience going on in that one between Utah and Oklahoma State. Should be a good one there from Stillwater, Oklahoma. That's a 3 o'clock kick there on Fox. Should be a great one there. Utah is favored in that one. Close one, though. Only one. Favored by one there. And then my last matchup that I'm going to be interested to watch is USC taking on Michigan. Number 11 USC taking on number 18 Michigan. Now, Michigan is stunk. They're throwing eggs around left and right. They've been stinking this year. I'm not going to lie. But they got a good defense, right? They got a good defense. And I really think, Orji is going to be at quarterback there. Alex Orji is going to be at quarterback there in that one. He's not much of a passer, but he likes to run the football, right? So I think what Michigan's going to do, and what I would do, is they're going to play a game like the Packers just did against the Colts. They're going to try to run the football all over USC. So it's going to be a question of how good is USC's run defense. This is what's going to interest me in that game, because the Badgers, not so much, they're not that great of a passing team right now, right? The Badgers are working on it, but they're not that great of a passing team at the moment. They're going to want to run the football against USC if they can. It's going to interest me because Michigan doesn't have that great offensive line anymore. How do they run the football against USC? Can they expose holes in that USC defense that the Badgers can look at and say, okay, we can do this same thing, right? We can do the same thing this next week here at USC. So I'm interested in this game simply because I want to see what USC does defensively against a team that I believe, with a mobile quarterback, a little bit more mobile than Braden Locke, but with a team that I believe is going to be trying to run all over the place. They're going to be trying to run all over the place in Michigan. So I'm interested to watch that game simply because I want to see USC's defense up against a run-heavy Michigan team, because I don't think they're going to try to air the ball out too much. I really don't. I think it's going to be, you're looking at the receiver core for them there. Their number one receiver right now is a tight end level in there for Michigan. Outside of that, they're two wide receivers, Morgan and Moore. They both have under 60 yards on the season. So not really prone to pass the ball except for in play action and, little drops like that, little dip and dunks, which plays into the Badgers' hand. So the way that Michigan is running offensively right now makes me eerily think like this is the Badgers 2.0 because we aren't really throwing the ball around a lot. I'm interested to see that defense in USC against them. So that should be something to watch there. So those are my three big games that I'm interested in this weekend. That, win, lose, I don't care who wins or loses those games there. I just want to see some good football there. And then, like I said, the Michigan game, I'm watching that run defense for USC and seeing what they can do there. Outside of that, some Big Ten teams in action coming up this weekend. I believe we're going to see Ohio State plays Marshall, which I don't think it's going to be much of a game. I believe it's the big noon kickoff. There ain't much else happening. That's why. Outside of that, we got Penn State taking on Kent State, LSU, and UCLA. UCLA, LSU, maybe an upset happens there. I don't know. I don't think so. We see Boston College and Michigan State. Is Michigan State for real? Boston College has played pretty good this year. Should be a good one there. Iowa facing off with Minnesota. Northwestern against Washington. Some decent games across the Big Ten slate, but nothing crazy to talk about in any way, shape, or form there. So there's your college football weekend slate. Some of the big games and some of the Big Ten games in action. Right now, like I said, Illinois and Nebraska in action. Illinois's got the football there to start the second half at their own 43-yard line right now. So I want to see Nebraska lose. I do. I do. I don't really like Illinois that much, but I'd be okay with watching Nebraska lose because it's like Nebraska is one of those teams that they always think they're good, and then all of a sudden the wheels fall off the wagon and they're just stranded out there. It's something that just gives me joy. I don't know why. I don't know why it just gives me joy. I don't pray for the downfall, but I do, right? It's just how I got to be. So with that, let's flip gears here. Let's switch gears, whatever you want to call it. And let's get to some Packers and Titans. Let's get to the Packers Titans preview here. So we see this Packers team kind of limping into this one. They had a hefty injury report leading up into this game here against the Titans. Kenny Clark, he was on the injured list with the toe injury. He was limited all week. Engenbar, he was a full go on Friday, so that's good to see. Josh Jacobs limited with a back, carrying the team last week, so his back hurts, right? That's about all I can get out of that one. Elton Jenkins, he had an illness and a glute injury. Did not practice on Wednesday, but he was limited on Thursday and Friday. Tucker Kraft limited. Jordan Love, he was limited all week. So the biggest question of this week, will Jordan Love play? You know, when you watch Jordan Love in those practices, I don't want to say that he was limping, but it looked like he had a gimp, right? It looked like he still was gimpy a little bit. I don't want to rule out Jordan Love because nobody knows, right? I believe that's going to be an hour and a half. I think they said like 90 minutes before kickoff, they're going to make a decision on it. So nobody knows, right? If I had to take my best educated guess, I'm going to say no. I am almost 61% positive Jordan Love will not play. 61%. I'm going to give it 61. That's not a great percentage, but it's good enough for me, right? Good enough. I don't think, I hope Jordan Love can play, right? I just don't want Jordan Love to get put in a situation where if he gets hit, if he takes the wrong kind of hit, what comes out of that there? I would rather have him full practice. I mean, he was in pads, right? So that's a good sign. He was in pads, so it makes you feel a little bit better. I just want to see him a full week of practice, running around, doing all his things. He was doing it, right, in practice this week. It worries me. It does. It really does worry me because in a game against the Titans where I feel like, yes, you would love to have him, but I think there's ways to win without him. It makes you question. It makes you question if you want to use him or not. So definitely something we're going to be keeping tabs on all weekend long because we want to know what the heck's going to happen come Sunday. And I don't think we're going to know up until probably Sunday morning. We will finally probably get the news on it. But if he's not back this week, it really leads me into probably next week. We will see a little bit of Jordan Love. So keep an eye on that Jordan Love situation there. Jordan Morgan, he's not playing, right? He ain't playing. Josh Myers, he had an ankle injury, right? I'm surprised that he wasn't on the illness there, but like Elton Jenkins. But Josh Myers, he has an ankle injury. He was limited all week at practice. Jaden Reed was limited with a calf on Friday. Zach Tom limited. Carrington Valentine, he's doubtful for the game. Did not practice all week there with an ankle injury. And Rasheed Walker was limited all week. So basically the offensive line was limited or doubtful or out of the game on Sunday there. So not good news there with Jordan Morgan. I thought he was starting to play well. I really did. I thought he was starting to play well for this offense. Outside of that, I mean, most guys, if you're limited on Friday, most guys are going to play. So I expect most of this list to be out there. The only guys that, I mean, I don't see Carrington Valentine. I don't see him playing. I don't see, like I said, 61% in on Jordan Love playing. Outside of that, I do think that everybody else will play. If Josh Jacobs does, regress, which I really hope he doesn't, if he regresses, that running back room gets really slim for the Green Bay Packers. So hopefully everything checks out with him. I mean, he had a heavy workload over this last week. He had a heavy workload against the Colts there. So something to keep an eye on there against the Titans is about the run game. What is it going to look like there after a game like that? What's it going to look like? And that's what I wanted to get into first there was with the Titans. Right now, we only have 2 games to go off of, right? We're not going to jump the gun here and say a whole boatload of things. The Titans have played the Bears and the Jets so far. Both lost both games 24-17. If they lose 24-17 to the Packers, I would have to look back really far into the history books, but that might be the first time a team has lost 3 straight games 24-17. That'd be crazy. But a little sidetrack there. But looking at this Tennessee Titans team, right now they rank number 1 in total defense, 10th against the run. When you look at those kinds of stats, they played the Bears, they played the Jets. The Jets have a decent enough running game, I guess, with Breece Hall and Braylon Allen in there. And then you look at the Bears with DeAndre Swift. They were trying to pass the ball a lot in that game against the Titans. Titans, I mean, the defense looked fine against the Bears, right? They looked fine against the Bears. They actually held the Bears offense to what? A 2-point conversion. That was it. Outside of his special teams and Will Levis throwing picks. So his defensive scoring for the Bears that led to that win. So the Titans, their team right now, it's 0-2, but they could definitely be 1-1. They could definitely be 1-1. And then you look at the Will Levis interception that he had against the Jets, and you look at that one and you say to yourself, what could have happened if he didn't whip that ball like a doorknob? Or against the Bears. Or no, it was a fumble against the Jets. It was that pick against the Bears where he kind of threw the ball out to the side there and got picked off and housed there for the leading score, technically the game-winning score for the Bears there. So what could have been for the Jets so far this season? But looking at the run defense, looking at the defense in total for Titans, this is a good defense. This is they don't have the boatload of household names, and I believe L'Jarius Sneed is also, as far as I know, he was a full go at practice. So L'Jarius Sneed's going to be out there. This is a good defense. Couple bigger names on that defense. Outside of that, not a whole lot to write home about, right? Not a lot of big-time players. But you're looking at this team and you're saying to yourself, okay, they have the number 1 defense in all football right now. They have the number 10 run defense in football right now. Packers, last week with Malik Willis under center, they relied heavily on that run. What is the run game going to look like this week? Can the Packers establish the run game against a pretty solid run defense? That's going to be interesting. Will Matt LaFleur open up the playbook? I think last week, he didn't really answer anything on that. It's like him answering the questions about Jordan Love. He was limited, right? I got sick of hearing him say limited after that, right? But he can't say much more. He's not going to say much more, but he kept saying he's limited. And then you get the next guy. He's limited, right? Will they open up the playbook, though, for Malik Willis? I think you have to. You know what? Last week, as much as Matt LaFleur doesn't want to make it seem like we had training wheels on and we were just pedaling around on the bike, with Malik Willis, we had training wheels on. We did. And we were holding it. And Josh Jacobs and the offensive line and, they were holding on. Tucker Kraft was holding them still, right? He was telling him he wasn't going to let him go. Like, that's what we watched last week. This offense, in order to win this game against the Titans, they're going to have to expand the playbook a little bit. Now, I don't know what that entails, right? You don't want to put Malik Willis in a situation where now he's trying to throw the ball around like it's going out of style, right? You don't want to put Malik Willis in that situation, but you also don't want Malik Willis to sit back there and constant run, 3 and out, run, 3 and out. You don't want to put the offense in that kind of situation either. So you're going to have to find the middle ground, right? And I think that's going to involve a lot of Tucker Kraft. I think that's going to involve a lot of Luke Musgrave and the wide receivers making things happen in short yard situations, right? Making things happen in short routes, right? Because the go ball to Rome last week, I loved it. I loved it, right? Rome made a play. That's what you wanted to see. I don't think you're going to be able to get away with that game, play after play, right? We're going to have to see Malik Willis, who, when you listen to some of these Titans guys or Titans, shows or anything like that, they had nothing wrong with the arm talent of Malik Willis. Their problem was the decision making. The problem is that he doesn't make those right reads and things like that. So in a game like this against a pretty solid defense, what do we see out of Malik Willis game 2? If he does go, right? This is all hypotheticals, but I'm 61% that Jordan Love doesn't go. So I've talked hypotheticals here. If Malik Willis is in there, Matt LaFleur has to open up the playbook a little bit there. I am interested to see because I think, it spoke volumes last week watching what Matt LaFleur was able to do with Malik Willis and this offense, be able to draw up that game plan for that one. I want to see what he draws up for the Tennessee Titans because you can't you can't script this game the same way. You can't be expecting the offense and Josh Jacobs to carry the offense like he did last week because the Titans, they're sitting there like, okay, if they try to do this, we're here, right? We know what they want to do. We got to be able to take that away. So then what do you expose next? I can't wait to see what Matt LaFleur draws up, and hopefully it is just as good of a game plan as what we saw last week there. So keeping that in mind, I'm looking over at the flip side of the ball. Will Levis has had some turnover issues early on here. So far, he has been 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions on the season. Not great, right? Not great in his own right there. And then I believe he has a couple of fumbles to talk about too. So he's turned the ball over a couple times. So with that in mind, I look at this defense then. I look at the stingy defense that the Packers have, McKinney, the secondary, right? Can they bait, or what is Hafley going to draw up to put pressure on Will Levis to make him make those decisions that end in not so good of throws, bad decisions, trying to run with the football carelessly, right? That's what happened against the Jets. I think he's going to fix that over time here, but it's going to be the little things in this game, right? It's going to be the little things in this game. And then I'm really interested to see, you look at this offensive line for the Titans. They struggle on the offensive line. And, I mean, Will Levis has been sacked 7 times already. Not great, right? The offensive line, he's constantly under duress, which doesn't help in what I was just talking about, the turnover problems for Will Levis. This definitely doesn't help in that scheme. So what are we looking at then? We got to see Rashawn Gary. We got to see Wyatt. We got to see Kenny Clark. We got to see even guys like Lucas Van Ness, Engelbar. We got to see those guys make things happen, right? We got to see those guys make things happen in this game. So far this season, they've kind of been quiet, right? Outside of Wyatt there up the middle, he had a pretty good game last week. They've been quiet on the outside. This is a game where I want to see them step up because you are playing against the offensive line who has struggled this year. Put some pressure on Will Levis in this game here and make things happen. So that's something that I'm watching there on this defense. Also, I'm looking at Quay Walker. I got to see a game out of Quay Walker, right? We heard Hafley talk yesterday or today here to the media, and he was talking about Quay Walker, and he said that he likes what he sees with Quay Walker. He likes what he has in Quay Walker, but as of now, the fans aren't seeing the same thing. The fans are seeing a thing where we're saying to ourselves, why don't we throw in other guys into those spots? Why aren't we toying with Wilson or McDuffie in the mic? There's lots of guys that we could throw into the mic and be like, this is going to work out a lot better. Maybe put Quay on the outside. There's so many different, or in the off-ball linebacker spot. There's so many different things that Packer fans are trying to toy with right now. And for me, I like Quay Walker. Don't get me wrong. Like, I have been an advocate of trying to persuade myself into saying Quay Walker has a boatload of potential. I just got to see him play disciplined football for one game. I got to see disciplined football where he breaks down in a hole. He doesn't blow past the play there. He makes the tackle, and that's it. Like, that is a game I want to see. So in this game here against a team in the Titans who hasn't really ran the ball great this year, but they've been, Tony Pollard's got 144 yards. Levis has ran for 74. Spears has ran for 41. They're a team that will run the football. When they do, I want to see Quay Walker step up and make some plays, right? That's something that I've been waiting to see, and I can't wait to see. I think it's going to be, if it's going to be a game, it's going to be this game. I want to see Quay Walker do something for me and step up big time in this one. So that's something I'm watching for on this defense here for Green Bay. Put some pressure on, right? Put some pressure on Levis. Make him make some dangerous throws. Make him make some bad decisions. Packers should be fine in their own right in this one. Offensive line, we got to see the offensive line for Green Bay play well because this defensive front for the Titans is pretty darn good so far. You got to be able to hold the front there for Malik Willis, or if it's Jordan Love, you got to be able to hold the line. You got to be able to open up holes for Josh Jacobs in this run game to get at least established in this game, because if you can establish a solid run game, you feel a little bit better then about opening up the playbook, because you're going to have multiple ways you can beat this team. You don't want to become one-dimensional. You want to have multiple ways that you're beating this team, right? And if it involves getting the run game going and then throwing the ball around a little bit, I'd love to see that, and I'd love to see what Matt LaFleur can draw up for this team in this week. So good stuff there. Hopefully, we're talking about a Packers win coming up here on Monday or Sunday night when we get on the live show next, or Monday when you listen to the podcast next. There, we're talking about a Packers win and some good things coming out of that one. And hopefully, maybe Jordan Love came back and lit the world on fire. I don't know. We'll see how it all shakes out there. But the NFL slate coming up this weekend, we saw New England lose to the Jets. Poor Drake May was being bull rushed like no other. That offensive line is bad. I don't know what to think of the New England Patriots, right? They beat the Bengals, right? They played a close game, and then they get completely just trounced by the Jets. So what is this team? Are the Bengals bad? Are the Jets not? Or like what? Are Jets really good? Like where's the middle ground here? I don't know. I don't know with this team. So that game already happened there, 24-3. The dumpster fire game of the weekend, I believe, is going to be the Browns against the Giants. I think it's going to be whoever kicks 2 field goals is going to win that one, 6-3. So Giants, Browns, that could be a complete disaster there. And then we see the Bears and the Colts. Colts looking to bounce back after a loss to the Packers there. Bears are going to have to get the run game going. I mean, they watched the Packers beat them with the run game. This is not a great front for the Indianapolis Colts. Bears, Colts. Right now, Indy is favored in that game there in Indianapolis for that one. Houston versus the Vikings, that could be a great game. That could be a great game. I hope C.J. Stroud walks in there and he just lights the world on fire because that'd be awesome. Houston, Minnesota, that's 12 o'clock start. Philly taking on the Saints. The Saints have been a little impressive. Not so. They beat the Panthers, so I don't count that one. But then they went to Dallas and completely trounced Dallas. So, like, there's a middle ground there, too. Where are the Saints? They're a middle-of-the-pack team to me. But solid wins. Solid wins in their own right. So, Saints and Eagles could be a good one there. Eagles, they're looking to it. I mean, they lost to the Falcons in a tough game against the Falcons. Sitting at 1-1 now. Their fans are getting restless. Their fans are getting restless right now. They're going to fire Sirianni if they lose this game. Outside of that, we see Steelers matching up with the Chargers. I really think the Steelers defense might be able to hold for a while, but Chargers, if it comes down to who can score 14 points, Chargers are going to win this game. Tampa versus the Broncos. Tampa, I mean, I love what Baker Mayfield's doing. Flip side of that, Bo Nix. I'm praying for him a little bit there. I want to see Bo Nix do something good. Broncos, I don't know about that one. I'm going to take Tampa at home. There. Carolina versus the Raiders. Raiders should win that one. Miami against Seattle. I think the Seattle Seahawks are going to win that game just because it's in Seattle. Miami they don't know what they're doing right now because Tua's out. I mean, I'm going to take Seattle in that one. This game right here, I don't know who needs this win more. Dallas or the Baltimore Ravens. Because Baltimore, they're 0-2. They're 0-2 right now. But Dallas just got blown out at home against the Saints. Who needs this win more? Who needs it more out of those two teams? I think the Ravens truthfully need it more, but more for morale reasons and fans not completely just lighting the world on fire, burning their jerseys and throwing TVs at the wall. Dallas Cowboys need to win at home because if they lose 2 straight at home, holy crap, oh my God, the city of Dallas will come unglued. That's all I know. San Francisco versus the Rams. That should be a decent enough game there. It's going to be at SoFi Stadium there. Should be a good game. I think San Francisco will win that one, but that should be a good game there. Arizona versus Detroit will be an interest. I did not know that Campbell had to sell his house because somebody leaked his address after the NFC Championship game loss last year. They leaked his address and people were like showing up at his house and stuff like that. That's messed up. That's messed up, man. That's messed up. That's the most messed up thing I've heard. I mean, man, oh man. I mean, Will Levis's phone number got leaked. That's still not as bad as that. Like, Dan Campbell's address got leaked to his house, and people in Detroit were showing up at his house. Now, what I want to know is, Detroit fans, for 5 seconds, did Campbell take you guys close to the promised land, farther than you've been in years, and you guys want to just, like, I don't even know, burn this guy's house down? Like, get a grip. Get a grip, man. But Arizona, they're a solid team this year. That should be a good game there in Glendale, Arizona. I mean, I'm going to take the Arizona Cardinals. I'm going to take the Cardinals to win that game at home. I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it in that one. It's a close spread right now. I think Kyler Murray's playing great this year. I think they have a good run game. I think everything's starting to come together. I'm going to take the Cardinals. I'm going to take the Cardinals to win that game. I can't believe I would say that. I didn't think I'd say that yet, but I'm going to take them to win that game. Kansas City will beat Atlanta. I don't think Atlanta they're good. They're not bad. I think Kirk Money Cousins is playing okay, but I think the Kansas City Chiefs will win that one. And then we have a couple games on Monday, Jacksonville and Buffalo, and Washington taking on Cincinnati. I'm going to take the Bengals to get their bounce-back win. They they're a team that desperately needs that win. 0-2. They thought they should have had that game against the Chiefs. I think they'll win that one. And then we see Buffalo and Jacksonville. I'm going to take the Bills to win that game over Jacksonville. They lose everything. And somehow they're still putting good product out on the field, and Josh Allen is playing well, so you got to love it if you are a Bills fan. So lots of good stuff happening in the NFL this weekend. Lots of good stuff happening on the scene of the college football happening this weekend here. Outside of that, we see the Brewers. They're going to be in action. They're going to continue this series. Right now, they're down 7-4. Not great. They tied it at 4, and then, it broke loose again. So right now, Diamondbacks are playing for position in the playoffs. The Brewers, they're at least locked into a 3, right? They're at least locked into the 3, and I don't know. I think this weekend is going to decide a lot for the Brewers. If they somehow win this game tonight and they win the next 2 games, I think that puts them in a different perspective come, this next week here over resting guys or balancing the rotation, because they are 4 games back. I think the 4 games back in the race for that number 2 seed right now, because they are 3.5. I believe they're 3.5 games back, if I'm not mistaken. I was just going to double check that. Let's see. They are 3.5 games back of first place right now. They're 3 games back of the Dodgers there for the 2 spot right now. If you're not within 2 games or 1.5 games come Monday, Monday's, I believe, an off day for the Brewers there before they get that series against the Pirates. Let's see here. They have the Monday off day there. If you're not within a game and a half before you travel to the Pirates, if you're still sitting 3 games back, I think that's the point where you start resting guys. Maybe some of your veteran guys like Adames or Contreras or, Rhys Hoskins, some of those guys. And I think you slowly start to get the rotation set. If Freddie's going to be your game 1, you get him ready to go. Montes is going to be your game 2. You get him slotted into that spot there. You got to slowly start putting those things together, because you don't want to give up on the 2 seed, but at the same time, you got to be prepared, because if you do not get the 2 seed, you're starting a wild card series. You would have that Sunday game against the Mets on the 29th. You'd have an off day on Monday, and then Tuesday you're starting up with the wild card game already. So you got to be prepared for the quick flip. So I think, honestly, if you're still sitting in that 3 games back range there, you're not giving up on it. You still want to win the games, but you're also at the point where you're resetting the rotation, you're getting guys rest in the lineup, and you're just preparing for the wild card series, where you could face this team in the Diamondbacks, or you could see a team like the Mets. So you have a couple series here where you're going to be facing the teams that you're probably going to face when it comes to the postseason. You're going to face one of these teams. It's just a matter of who. And right now, the Diamondbacks offensively are playing very well. Pitching-wise, they're struggling. So Brewers got to find a way to slow down the bats of the Diamondbacks here in this series. Prove to themselves right now this Diamondbacks team is beatable, because right now they are putting up runs left and right on this Brewers team. And it's, not scary, but this is a team of the Diamondbacks that matches up well with the Brewers. They are a team of the Diamondbacks that match up well with the Brewers. So it's a team that you don't want to have to face, because they are a complete team. I think they're a complete team. So they're a dangerous team when it comes to postseason. So, hopefully we're talking about a series at least split come Monday here on the show, or come Sunday night when we talk again on the live stream there. So with that, that's about all I got for the day here. Aaron wasn't here today. Didn't get into our normal, betting lines, whipped cream to the face kind of talks, everything like that. Didn't get into that today. But he'll be back this next week here, and we're going to be able to recap the weekend. We're going to be able to preview the next weekend after that. We're going to get into it all next week there. So with that, this has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Friday night here. But until I talk to you guys again on Sunday, deuces.